Next up, he is an artist working on Black Panther, who is having a resurgence right now. Please welcome Brian Stelfreeze. Black Panther?
Hey man, come back.
Don't get an LL Cool J quote too much on the panel these days. Please welcome to the stage, from Power Man and Iron Fist, Sanford Greene.
I feel like I should drink this and spit it in the air.
Triple H intro.
Okay, man.
And lastly, from Uncanny X-Men, please welcome Ken Lashley.
I guess this one's mine. Black people don't get no water up in here. What's going on, man?
All right, to get things started, let's go down the table and have everybody tell you a little about the projects that they're currently working on. So Art, if we could start with you. No, Art doesn't want to do that.
I'm drawing covers. Sweet. That's it. Yeah, no, it's your turn. I'm done. I'm serious.
I'm drawing Black Panther.
Yeah.
You guys are making this way too simple here. Let's see.
Oh, good.
It's a lot of fun drawing Power Man and Iron Fist. We're not helping him at all. He's looking at us like, dude, thanks, dude.
We got a lot of time left.
Yeah.
I'm working on Uncanny X-Men. I just finished doing that, and I'm working on another X-Men project with something with Inhumans and X-Men, something related.
Something nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Say no more. And you can see too on the screens we have the art of these wonderful artists constantly looping throughout the panel, so you can check out some of their stuff. Since we have artists here, one thing I would like to ask each of you about is the collaborative process when you're working with writers or when you're being fed an idea. How much of that is purely from your creative mind and how much of that is shaped by a particular writer?
No, I need better questions. I'm sorry. For me, doing the covers, they basically, an editor calls and says, hey, we need a cover featuring this character. And I will usually send 4, 5, 6 different sketches, and they always pick the one I least want to do. And then I do it, and then they pay me, and the mortgage gets paid. It's pretty basic.
Isn't that weird how they go to the worst?
It's their magic power.
It really is a mutant power.
I have totally learned over the years that to do 4 really bad sketches and 1 good one, and they always pick the good one. So I was like, oh, this is like a rough, you don't want this one, but you want this one.
Well, how bad are your bad?
I mean, I have to write notes with it, like this is a person standing here. The other one's like fully colored, so they go, ooh.
I'm going to be doing it twice.
It's not that good, I just feel like, the other ones are really rough. I'll lead them down the path.
I like that. But actually, as far as just the collaborative process, I find when you get the opportunity to collaborate with someone who's writing, you get a much better project. I mean, there's a synergy that comes from the collaborating process, unless you're working with someone who's just not cool. Then it's just like it crashes the collaborative process. But when you get a real good line of communication going with your writer, then you just get a great project. And even there are certain editors that I work with simply because those guys are cool.
I want names on who's not cool.
I'll give you a list.
Afterwards. That's an exclusive, yeah. I think, like what Brian just said, you know, being able to work on a project from the ground up is extremely gratifying in terms of writer-artist collaborative, because you know you're both you know, equally a part of the creative process. You know, whereas, you know, if you're doing something that's already in the pipeline in terms of stories or characters or what have you, you're just kind of, it's like a moving train. You got to run and jump on, you know, while this train is, or else you're going to either get left or ran over, one or the other. I prefer, you know, jumping on. But, you know, getting run over doesn't look too good. But, you know, just starting from the ground up, I think that's been the greatest creative experience I've had thus far.
Actually, the weird thing is that I got a call for an interview with like this NPR affiliate, and the guy said, "Well, you're the author of Black Panther," and I said, "No, I'm the artist." And he's like, "Well, I thought it was a writer and an artist formed the author," and I was just like, "You know, you're right." I was like, "Yeah, you're correct. I'm sorry."
I did not mean to correct you.
A new title means a bigger paycheck, doesn't it?
It does.
And I thought that was really
That's
interesting.
actually not a bad idea.
To consider the combination of
Trust
the writer.
NPR to figure that out.
Yeah.
I know, right?
But yeah, and so now in my head, I'm like, yeah, that is cool.
That makes a lot of sense.
When the authorship of the project is actually a combination of writer and artist, whereas the writer is the writer, the artist is the artist, but the author is the work they do together.
Yeah.
I'm
So
curious.
I want that
sorry.
on these titles, on these name tags.
Yeah.
Author.
Get more respect.
Yeah.
With the current popularity of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, has that influenced your jobs at all as to how you approach your characters?
Not me, no. Because it's funny, it's even now it's still true with all of the amazing special effects that they can do. But you know, with the comic book, we can make things way more interesting than they can in movies.
Yeah.
From my point of view, we just, you know, and it costs a lot less for us to do it. Which, again, we should probably charge more.
Certainly should.
Well, I think, you know, that's definitely true, but I think in terms of the attention that the characters that we work on, I guess more specifically Black Panther and Luke Cage and Iron Fist, because those characters have gotten such a spotlight, it definitely has brought a spotlight to what we do. It's brought in, you know, the viewing audience to what we do in terms of the comics. It does work, you know. Sometimes you hear, you know, the comic market isn't really, you know, growing per se, but I've gotten a lot of new, you know, fans to what we do because
It's
they're
gotta be a little bit
so.
of both, especially with you guys starting basically number one.
Right.
Absolutely.
So when they come in, they're
But
looking for that.
I think the odd thing about it is to the question, what's odd is I don't think it's affected us at all as far as what we do.
Oh, no.
I mean,
Right.
I would be doing this if
No,
it was a
it
movie or
just
not.
means that my daughter, who's almost 6, can come in when I'm working and she goes, "Oh, you're drawing Groot."
Yeah,
And she
yeah.
knows what it is.
Absolutely.
And that's
true.
it's like I
She still likes
remember.
it better if I draw Scooby-Doo, but that's beside the
I remember having,
Scooby-Doo.
when I got my first checks from Marvel, they had like this sort of emboss of Spider-Man on them.
Yeah.
And I remember it was just so embarrassing taking that, where I'd go to the bank, you know,
It's a badge of honor.
and like slide that check across the counter.
They don't have anything to
Yeah, and the teller would just kind of look at it like,
Mine do.
oh,
Mine do.
you're a child. But what's really cool is like, in the time that I had been doing stuff for Marvel, that went from being embarrassing
Yeah,
to
to badge
being
of honor.
cool. You know, where
Oh
you
my God,
you
this is
kind
so-
of slap that check down and the teller would go, ooh.
Not one
Exactly.
It's one of my royalty checks, not one of yours. Oh, look, it's $42.63.
Well, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I will say one thing about drawing comics is it opened a lot of doors for me because I work for Lucasfilm, I do stuff for Chorus Entertainment, and I design cartoons outside of comic books. And because I work on X-Men, the spotlight is when I go to a meeting and I'm sitting in a meeting with all these suits and they're talking about this stuff and they say, well, what do you do, Ken? I say, well, I draw Uncanny X-Men. They go, oh. It's like it's a whole different mess. You know, the movie comes out and, you know, it's a whole different thing now. It used to be, oh yeah, you draw comics. Now it's it's part of their vocabulary when they talk about certain things. So it's not like how it used to be where it's, oh yeah, you draw comics. Now it's like, oh my God, you draw comics? That's awesome.
And I'll add to that.
Can we afford you?
I'll
Yes,
add to
you
that.
All of them, really.
And I've been working in comics forever, but like, my mom, I don't think has ever read a single comic book that I've ever done, because she's, you know, an old black woman who's just not into comics.
I would hope that's true. Would you just hope that?
That'd be weird if he was a young black woman.
A white woman, be like, what's happening here?
How's that work, Brian?
That's your mom? That's your mom, right?
What's strange to me is she knows that I've been doing comics forever, and she kind of goes, yeah, whatever. But what's cool is when Black Panther was announced in the New York Times, I actually got a call from her.
Wow.
Her saying, "Oh, I hear you're working on Black Panther," and I'm like, "Oh, come on!" I was like, "You don't know who Black Panther is. Don't pretend you love me."
What just happened here? We went to a whole other way here. What is this panel about?
We need to wheel out a couch now, and this is going to become a whole different kind of thing. We'll just stay there.
That is so
Therapy
funny.
session.
Well, my mom actually got kicked out of a store because she was in Barbados on vacation and saw my work behind the register. Said, oh, my son drew that. And the guy said, get out of here, lady, you crazy lady. No black people draw those things. Come out to my store, come on. You know, she's like I kicked her out of the store because she's like, no black people draw those things, you're crazy. But that's what happens, you know? It's nuts.
Okay, I do have a
Black story?
old black man. He's my dad. He is old, and he's black. Maybe we should get them together. It just didn't couldn't comprehend that you draw for this company. Aren't they in New York? That's far. How can you draw and then get it up there in time for them to print it? And I was like, well, there's this thing called technology. They have computers that you can send this stuff on. He was like, so you guys do it on a computer? Well, that's impressive. I mean, that's the first time he was impressed that I actually used a computer to do comic book.
So the drawing,
Yeah, the drawing part was like, okay, yeah, I know that, but you use a computer to draw? That's amazing.
Can I bring the room down with a terrible joke?
We got it
I'd be
really
very
well.
upset if my mom called me about me being in the New York Times.
Is yours?
yeah.
Because she's been dead for 10 years.
What is
What's
bring
wrong with
room
that,
down?
man?
What is room down?
There's not something wrong with that dude.
He's here all weekend. He's here all weekend.
Ladies and gentlemen, the cooler.
More like the heater.
It's like 3 black guys and Arthur Adams.
This might be a good time to start opening up to fan questions.
I'm just creating a sitcom right now. It's called 3 Black Guys and Arthur Adams. I'd watch that. Would you not watch that?
It would be on the sci-fi channel.
That would be on the CW for sure. That's on CW. No, that's not.
We can't start backers right here. Oh, there you go.
We don't need a Kickstarter. No. I got a good job. I'm paying for this myself. Let's do this.
There is a microphone in the middle aisle. If people want to start lining up for questions, feel free.
Uh-oh, they're not
Here they go. It only takes one, and then the rest
You
come
can just go to
up.
sleep. Now you're requesting me for Arthur Adams. We know that, right? So let's just lean back in the chair.
All right, what's your name?
Mark Lynch.
And what's your question?
Hi, Mark.
Actually, this is a general question, especially for the guy drawing Black Panther and Luke Cage.
That guy.
Oh, I know one for you too, because you draw Monet St. Croix.
Wow. Say that one more time for the folks out there.
Monet St. Croix.
Okay.
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing.
What's it like in an era where a lot of minorities are now becoming more popular? Superheroes like Luke Cage getting his own show. We got Luke Cage and Iron Fist getting their own thing. We got Black Panther now becoming more famous for what he can do, and for someone who was so underrated and so
Number
long.
one selling book of 2016 was Black Panther.
Yes. Usain Bolt? Was that the Usain Bolt? No, he just pointed.
It was sidearms.
Oh, wow. those are all like part of his references too, for Black Panther. He does look cool.
Is this part of the show?
Yes.
All right, it's part of the show.
So what's it like actually being part of that? Like actually, almost ushering in a new era of like, drawing characters like that, like strong minority characters.
Awesome. I mean, it's one of days that I can sit down after that. I can leave for any more. No more questions.
Yeah, it's actually really, really cool. I think as an artist, and particularly a comic book artist, you're in this position where you're doing stuff generally alone in your studio, and you're hoping that people see it. And regardless of what you're doing, you're just doing the work and just putting it out there, and people all over the world are gonna, hopefully see it. And it's kind of cool to work on some of the big stuff, where there's going to be an audience. As an illustrator, as an artist, you're putting your voice out there, and you want people to hear it, and hopefully they'll respond well to it. And at the same time, when you're working on these diverse characters, one of the things that I think is interesting is we're oddballs. I mean, if you're a white comic book artist or if you're a black comic book artist, you're weird. You're just a weird sort of loner anyways. And
Look at the expressions you're making me do, like, really? I thought that was cool.
So it's kind of a situation where like if you're drawing stuff, in order to be able to draw something, you have to be ridiculously observant. You have to pay attention to all these details. So I think to a certain extent, it doesn't really matter the color of the creator because you're observant. And like I can draw Superman even though he's white and from another planet because I'm creative. But at the same time, being able to draw like a black character, that doesn't require me to create. That requires me to just look at the life that I've led. It requires me to think about my great-grandmother, think about my mother, think about my brothers, my uncles. So it's like, I think a lot easier to get to the truth because I don't have to create. Whereas if I'm drawing Bruce Wayne, I'm really going to have to generate that imagination because I happen to not be a wealthy, psychopathic millionaire.
So you're saying,
Based on this book right here.
I'm hoping to one day be.
That's often why people,
I'm just saying,
when they're
it's
starting
great.
drawing, like guys have trouble, young men have trouble drawing young women and vice versa. It's just a different experience.
Yeah.
absolutely.
But I think there's a part of it too, though, like what you were saying earlier. You go off of your experiences, and that makes it authentic. And there's thousands of people that will channel that authenticity, and that's where you really see your voice is really being heard, and that's where it's gratifying. Wow, there are others that have that same experience, and you have this immediate connection. You can go to these conventions, and doesn't matter black, white, or whatever, and they'll come up to you and they'll say, "Man, when you said that word fiddle faddle, I have kids at home and I have to watch my mouth. That was so because I curse like a sailor, and my wife is like, you got to stop that." And you realize that wow, that's not just something that you express in a comic. That's life. That's something that that people, they deal with that. So that makes it.
I can't believe you said fiddle.
Yeah. it's there. It's hard. It is
Sanford.
They're like, but that's the thing that makes it, again, it makes it so gratifying.
Next question, what's your name?
Is it dark now?
Yes, yes
Okay.
it is.
My name's Dan Kennedy. How y'all doing?
We're
Doing all right.
good.
My question for you is, with DC having so many animated movies,
Oh, we gotta go now. I said,
Hold on, Sid.
this is Make My Marvel. I'm sorry.
let me finish the question.
I know, right?
I like your attitude. Go on.
Oh, this is me just turned to 1.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
Don't make me come down there.
So DC?
How do you think Marvel can catch up with to DC with the animated movies and such?
Oh, the anime.
Oh, the animated stuff. I don't think Marvel even cares. I mean, they're printing money with their movies. So, you know, they're just like, you know, I just, it's kind of weird because right now, for me, I think it's actually kind of interesting because DC does pretty awesome, like, animated and some pretty cool TV stuff, whereas Marvel's, like, TV stuff is kind of...
Cartoon stuff's pretty bad.
Yeah, the cartoon stuff is horrific. Their TV stuff
Absolutely.
is terrible. Even though people say I should watch S.H.I.E.L.D. now, it was just
I'm not
terrible.
convinced, yes.
You know, but Marvel's movie stuff is like just amazing. Everything that they do is just wonderful. So I think it's kind of a yin yang. You know, just give Marvel the movies and give DC TV.
And I haven't seen any of the Marvel Netflix stuff, so I couldn't judge that. So.
Yeah, the Marvel Netflix stuff is great.
That's probably just more, it's only where between movies and
Yeah.
TV.
Whereas the DC, I don't think DC's done
I
anything.
don't think so.
And they shouldn't, because it would be horrible.
Thank you.
Thank you. What's your name?
Jesse,
What's your question?
question is, how do you, well, first, love your work, thank you all so much. How do you balance the tension? I think on one hand, you're obviously trying to talk about the Black experience as it exists within the US,
Right?
among other issues.
Come on, Arthur. They want to hear from Arthur right now, right?
How do you balance the tension? How do you balance the tension between trying to, on one hand, address institutional oppression, a lot of issues that are relevant to the community, without reinforcing stereotypes that might already exist and somehow allowing the characters to be caricatures?
Can I think that we want to answer, we like to use those buzzwords every time we speak about those kind of topics, but the truth of the matter is the fact that I exist in this business breaks down 90% of those stereotypes. The fact that I am working on big books, regardless of the color of my skin, and the fact that I am Black and people are invisible, I think that dispels a lot of the foolishness that we talk about. I think we need to focus on what's really true, which is the talent, which is the guys who actually draw, or the females, or whoever, the artists that create these things. And I think we need to stop saying, we need this, this, and that. The fact that you can open up a book and run into it and say, Kailash is drawing X-Men, is as important as what the book is about. And I think that's what we need to focus on. There's going to be crappy books, good books, made by Black creators, white creators, doesn't matter. And I think we have to stop focusing on the stuff that is negative and focus on the stuff that is positive, which is the fact that I'm existing and I'm Black and I have a family and I'm taking care of them and I'm drawing the biggest brands in the world. And I'm telling you straight, the things that I loved when I was a kid was Star Wars, G-Force, and Uncanny X-Men. And I'm designing the G-Force cartoon right now. I'm working for Star Wars, and I'm drawing Uncanny X-Men.
What he said, so.
Ditto.
Thank you.
Ditto.
Yeah, absolutely. We're up here.
My name is Eric. This is a question for all four of y'all. How did y'all get started in business and is there a character that you wish you could have worked on that you didn't work on?
How did I get started?
Yeah, I'm good, sir.
I was 13 and decided I wanted to draw comic books. And then when I was 19, I asked Marvel if I could draw comic books, and they said yes.
This method will not work for you.
Get out of here, man.
You think that would work? No.
All of you 12-year-olds out there. That's not
is that?
No, it would drive my mom and dad nuts. They're like, because my dad was in the Air Force, my mom was a homemaker, and so I used to say I want to draw comic books, and I'm like, well, that's great that you want to do that, but we don't know how to help you do that. So when I was 16, I said, I have another idea what I could do. Oh, great, we're really happy to hear that. What do you want to do besides draw comic books? I want to be an actor. No, that's
Wow.
not. So they had no idea how I was gonna do it. And back then, fortunately, they had submissions editors at Marvel and DC where you could just basically get Xeroxes of your work and send it to the companies, and they would say yes or no, whether you're ready or not. Fortunately, on my second try, they said, yes, you're ready. Let's try out. And fortunately, that worked out. And I can't think of anything that I've wanted to draw that I have not found some way to do that.
And for me, I did the opposite of that, which is I became a architectural illustrator and a commercial illustrator, and I worked in those fields for about 10 years, and then sort of remembered that I loved comics and decided to do a few pages and take them to a show, and got a book, the first show that I took the pages to, and it turned out that that was so much fun that it slowly took over all the commercial and architectural stuff that I was doing. So rather than getting in when I was 19, I got in quite a bit later on.
Well, mine is, I think we're gonna keep going down in terms of the story quality.
Whoa, I'm the last to go.
His story is spectacular.
It's gonna go reverse, but my story is a combination of both of these guys, where I had this crazy fantasy, I want to draw comics, no one knew what that meant, had no clue of how to help. That's nice, son, go ahead and play. In their mind, play was me drawing the comics and stuff. As I grew, got out of school, college or whatever, I got a job doing graphic design. Same thing. I want to do this comic book thing, and they were like, "Oh, that's cool. You can probably do some of that here." There was nothing. It was typesetting. There's no art work there. But I learned how to use Photoshop, which is essential right now.
Yeah.
And one day, I heard about this show in Charlotte called Heroes Con, and I went to that and showed my portfolio to Marvel when they were going out to those shows. They had a submissions editor there. He said, "Dude, you're not ready." Meanwhile, I kept submitting over like 3-4 years or whatever, and I finally got a small gig at Dark Horse working on Planet of the Apes. So I drew monkeys. It was my first job. And that was kind of, it was surreal because the movie had just came out, the Tim Burton one, unfortunately. And yeah, I know, right? And it just slowly came from that point. There was a lot of just grinding, going to conventions. Because even after I got in, this is the key, even after I got my first job, it was still an uphill climb, because in your mind you think, oh wow, my first gig, the floodgates are gonna open. I'm made. This 19-year-old, break it in dream was like, it was false for me.
We all have heard that.
We all heard that story. And
when I turned 20, I thought it was a failure.
But it took another 4 to 5 years even after that to get like consistent work, and shortly after that, that's when the ball started to roll for me.
Mine was
This is gonna be great.
I submitted one portfolio and I got hired to draw an X-Men book when I was 20.
Oh, come
22.
on. Again.
That's the truth. I submitted a book and I got to my work in, and I was offered a few jobs. And people always think, oh, you took X-Men because it's X-Men. I said, no, they called first. They called at 1 and 2 o'clock, somebody else called, but I took the first job. The phone rang and I picked it up, and it was I got Excalibur, Age of Apocalypse. It was the first job I ever did.
And again, this shouldn't be your plan.
No, it's not. I mean, it was just, you're fortunate to be able to work and be able to do the things. And I mean, it's a great opportunity to the world to see your work. But my goal was always to do comic books and do other things. So I did comics for about 3 years straight at the beginning, and then I took a year off to decide what I really wanted to do, and I opened a company, and we started doing other stuff and working with Lucas, and that's how I built that relationship. But so now I have balance of that workload. So I do all these different things, and it keeps me fresh in comics because I only do about, they would like me to do more, but I only do about 6 books a year, and I do about 20 covers, you know, for various people. So it keeps me fresh, you know, and always doing other things, and you know, meeting Hasbro and driving down here and going to Hasbro for a couple of days is fun, you know. But that's how I keep myself going. I'm working on a new Star Wars one, but don't tell anybody.
Y'all three, was it here in character that y'all had to be wrong? Did y'all want to?
Oh, we missed that, one.
Yeah.
Because we're still scarred from our experience. I'm actually doing my dream book right now, honestly, with the exception of doing my own creator-owned thing. But doing, you know, Luke and Danny has been, you know, something that I aspire
I
to
love
do.
your guys' work, man. It's sick.
Yeah, I tell you, the weirdest, and you know, I'm gonna be a bit of a cooler on this one. With comics, I found that when I was outside of comics looking in, there were like just a bunch of stuff that I was desperate to do. But by the time I got into comics, it's really more, it's not so much the characters that get me excited, it's more like the creative team. You know, so I'm working with a good, like, I could care less about the character. And there are characters that I don't like, but if I get a good script with that character, then I'm excited about it. So it's kind of, when I was on the outside, I would constantly be in the position of, oh my God, if I could just work on, you know, Spider-Man. But now I look at Spider-Man and go, eh. You know, but if I get a good script, I'd want to work on it, but there's nothing about the character in general that gets me excited about it.
That's not a cool answer, that was a good answer.
Very
Thanks,
sick.
guys.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Alright, so this question's for Brian primarily.
Bring it.
How has working with Ta-Nehisi Coates been different from working with other writers who who have had more experience in comics, and Ta-Nehisi Coates, who is primarily known for writing books?
It's kind of strange because I was really nervous at first because he is the great and powerful Ta-Nehisi Coates, and I was under the impression that he might have that aloofness of, like, you know, being a genius and having all the bona fides, but like I was really surprised after our first conversation because he was really open, he was really communicative, asked a bunch of questions, and just really wanted to know what my opinion of Black Panther and what he was doing with Black Panther was. And it goes to what Sanford was saying. I mean, I got in before the train even got started. And in the time that I've been working on Black Panther, I have had more conversations with him, more communication with him than on any other project with any other writer. And I'm talking even writers that were friends of mine that we'd have dinner on Sundays. So it's kind of, it's a strange process. I thought it was going to be one thing, but it turns out that it's something completely different. And at the same time, I thought, because people who come from outside of comics, they tend to be verbose. They tend to overdo things. And Ta-Nehisi did that on his first script, and the moment he was told about it, it changed. And he's actually a genius. I mean, the moment you say something to him, he knows that thing, and not only does he know that thing, but he incorporates that thing later down the line.
Nothing, I'm not doing anything, but.
Thanks, man.
So yeah, I mean, it's been like probably the best experience ever, and it could have been the most horrible experience ever, but like it turned out that it was the best experience, or it still is the best experience.
Alright, thanks.
Hello, I'm Connor.
Connor!
What up? So question for all of you. You guys have obviously had great experiences. What's been the worst experience throughout your entire time?
Besides this.
For me, probably the worst experience has been, and this is something that I refer to as the salad bar, which is like Art was saying. An editor says, "Hey, I'd like you to do a cover for Thor," and you basically go, "Okay, I'll do 4 covers."
Yeah.
And generally, there's the cover that you want to do, and there's 3 other covers. And if the editor picks one of the other covers, or the worst of the covers, that feels bad.
Right.
But what feels worse is when the editor goes, I'll tell you what, can I have the figure from cover number 1 and the back background from cover number 2, and this thing that you did in the background here on cover number 3, can I have that?
That's
I
like
want
every
you to do
serving
that.
ship that
Yeah,
we've had.
that's the salad bar.
Oh my God.
And that has always been the worst experience ever, and I have lost editors when they do that.
I did an X-Men cover last week, and the editor said, I was thinking about this. And so I did the roughs, and then the upper management said, no, we have another cover very similar to that coming out the same month. Could we do a different change? So she came with all these ideas, and I said, let me do my thing. And she said, well, I was thinking about this. I said, let me do my thing. That's code for, excuse me, just let me draw the damn thing, right? So I do it the right, and she sends it in, and I color it. And she's like, that's awesome. I go, thank you for letting me do my thing.
The worst one I've had was changing deadline, where suddenly the deadline was 2 weeks less
Of
than I was told to begin
Of
with.
course.
Yeah, exactly. So that's when I ended up drawing a page in a half hour. So like I can say I can draw a page in a half hour. That was not a good page.
I'm gonna say this straight, and you guys won't believe maybe you will, but the last X-Men issue that I drew, I did pencil and ink in 13 days.
Oh my God.
Yeah, okay.
There's
And they said,
something-
oh, and then, yeah, and then they
That's a
said,
mutant power, by the way.
and they said, oh, now you can do a book 2 in a month, and I go,
Yeah.
I am
Yeah.
not doing
The
that.
fastest one I ever did was 11 pages in a weekend.
That's
Well, it
insane.
was a long weekend, so it was 3 days.
Oh, that makes
But
a
it was
difference.
dinosaurs.
Well, that makes a difference. It's a long weekend, so that makes all the difference in the world. Another 24 hours on the
And
36.
the weird thing is like you said, and there are times when editors will call up and they need a sniper, they need a fireman.
Yeah.
They need someone to like save the day,
Yeah.
defuse a ticking bomb.
Uh-huh.
And what's weird is from time to time, we will do that.
Yeah.
From time to time, I will step in and I will cure cancer. But the moment you do that once,
Yeah, you're that
that's
guy.
your average.
Okay, I'm gonna say this. You won't, okay, this is San Diego Comic-Con. I'm walking and I get it. Okay, there's a very famous artist who works at Marvel was behind me at the Hasbro booth, and I'm getting stuff and they're getting stuff. I go home. I go back to the condo. I get a text saying, I can't get a hold of this artist. I need an X-Men cover. It has to be in Friday. And I'm looking at it and I go, hey, that guy was standing behind me at the Hasbro booth buying stuff, right? Like literally. So I get the text and I go, well, okay, I can do it. And she said, it has to be to the printer on Thursday. And no, it's Monday, right? So I'm thinking, I'm in San Diego. I'm still gonna fly home. So I flew home Tuesday night. I did the rough. It took them 6 hours to approve it. And I did the cover in 6 hours. And it's back to and then I get to the colors by Thursday, by Wednesday, it's done to the printer, and they go, great job. I'm saying, no, I cured cancer.
It's like, appreciate what I've done.
Yeah, don't say it's a good job.
That's a good job. Okay,
I love
let's
it.
see if I can make this convoluted story less convoluted.
This is my sketch book.
So, I worked with a very well-known creator. Okay, let's call him Creator X. That's his name. And he had a script that was a phone book, pretty much. I don't know if you guys ever seen scripts.
Yeah.
They're usually 20 pages at most. This was a phone book with references that I've never would think of. I had to read the references on top of thumbnails that I had to follow directly. You know, as far as the thumbnails.
That's
go.
undoable.
It's undoable. And any variation from that, I will get reprimanded by this writer, because this writer had
The vision.
he had something. He had,
And
and
it was contagious.
it was very contagious. The editor had no power whatsoever because the writer was bigger than the editor for the most part. And it was literally, if I say this, okay, you guys.
Don't tell anyone.
Don't tell
No, it's not anyone, but it's
Whatever.
whatever.
Say it.
Say it.
Bring
No,
the ring.
it was the grid format. You guys familiar with the grid format?
Jesus.
Oh,
Like every panel had to be the exact same size. Okay.
Way to be creative.
6 to 9 panels per page.
I'm out.
I wish I could
You have to
be.
explain that because people don't understand what I mean. When you put 9 panels on a page, right, you think, oh, a page is a page.
Think
No, if you-
tic-tac-toe
Yeah.
and drawing every square.
Yeah, think about it. If you, an average book, if you do 4 panels a page and 20 pages, that's what? What does that work out to be? That's 80 panels, right? Yeah, if you're doing 9
Everyone's
panels
like,
at times 20, like how much work is that? You actually double the workload,
Right.
and it's the same amount of time. People don't understand. You know, when I see 9 panels a page, I said, this guy's crazy. I said, there's going to be a splash page right here.
I try to be, you know, creative. And I try to overlap one of the panels, and I try to take away a couple of panels, and this writer X, caught it.
Oh.
And I got an email about 3 paragraphs long about his method and why it's that way, and the originality of it. And
Then go ahead and draw it.
go ahead and draw it. And
Knock
this
yourself
person
out.
could. I think he could draw it.
Well, then that's what they should have published.
I know, right?
Knock
You guys
yourself
want to
out.
know who it is?
Are we getting the music?
Oh, come on, you gotta tell us.
I want to know, I have to know.
To be continued.
I'll let you know on Facebook later.
I hate to be the bad guy, but we are just about out of time. If we have one more quick question, we can take it.
Hey, my name is Kristen.
Hey, Kristen.
Yeah, I just saw you. So my question is, two of you already answered it, so extra quick. We're at a great time for comics right now. For the first time I can go to my family reunion in the South, and I'm not just like the weird girl with cartoon t-shirts. They like actually know what's on my t-shirt.
What's South?
Awesome.
Yeah.
What's South? I'm sorry.
We just had our 47th in Atlanta, actually.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
That's not the South.
Yeah, no.
I know, it's the dirty South.
Look at She's from
Oh,
the
yeah,
South.
she's in the South.
What did you say?
But I wanted to know what point, like two of you already told stories, but what point did your biggest critics, like your family, actually acknowledge like, oh, look, you're really doing something here?
When I made lots of money.
Yeah, when I treated
I ain't gonna lie.
anyone to dinner, I was, hey, I got the check. And they looked at me and was like, what are you doing?
I got the
doing funny books, that's what I'm doing.
I tell you, my mom wanted a mahogany. My mom used to drive by this furniture store on Sundays and said, I love that mahogany set. And I bought that set and put it with the kid. So that's when everyone at the time went, ooh. Black guy's making some money. Arthur was 19, so it didn't matter to him.
Buy my mom and dad a new house.
Oh, wait, we got different rates, man. I bought a table. I didn't buy the chairs, I just bought the table.
Buy mama TV.
For the layaway.
It wasn't layaway.
All right, we're gonna wrap it up there. Please put your hands together one more time for Arthur Adams, Enjoy the rest of your concert.
Everybody sit down, what are you doing? Actually, I didn't take any pictures of myself.